Those are tricky. I'm telling you. I am telling you.
Bad chair goes down. Go down.
It won't go up. You're tall. Good work for you.
I'll be the harder. I am. So that's what's got to do.
That was for me. I'm everybody's saying.
And I'm not like that.
That works.
Video, whatever it's called. I can hear it. And they just. Either way, they said you
Well, that one wasn't any fun. We'll go next one.
You got the message. So there is a piece right on point.
She doesn't know. Oh, that is so good. Oh, we got extra chairs. Huh?
I know Tyson has tried it here.
I saw him out there. I'm gonna try and come here. Yeah, no, I got one. I got a fight job. I know, I'm gonna need a weed. There's Tyson. Tyson's here. I put you over there, I'm sorry. It's kind of luck at the draw today. I want to say yes, but at the same time, I'm like, Grab the white. Yeah, say grab the. Come in, sorry. I'm trying to figure out a situation. There's too many. I'll try. Hi.
Okay. Well, I don't think you want
I didn't think my the table would take me out. I see what you're trying to do here. I'm like, just pull. I'll take him out, I guess. I'm sorry. Steve, I have nothing ill against you. I'm sorry. He was trying to be nice, and here I was trying to put the table up.
Oh, that's all right.
Oh, don't worry, mine over there in the corner broke. I think I sit on the ground. I'm walking short. I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, it's easier to pass this out in the middle.
So if that, because Randy said it's a bad here, I'll take that one. I got it.
I'm not trying to take out anybody.
There you go, Steve.
I'm telling you. I don't think anybody's gonna be in that one. Nobody's in the other one.
You can, look at that.
Did everybody get 3 copies? You did not.
3 copies. Is that what these 3 copies are? Okay.
Well, you don't, and then, you know, the only people.
We'll start talking about it.
We didn't have time to drink anything that loud that we could get to, go down.
How good am I to sneak out of here?
Weird looking.
Wish I didn't know that the other meeting was gonna run over. Trying to rush through. Good way to miss it.
That's right.
We're recording, I believe, aren't we?
Yes, sorry.
All right, we'll get this meeting started. Stand for a pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, before we call a roll call, we do have a new member, Patrick Nevers. He is representing the county council as their citizen. County commissioners, I'm sorry, county commissioner as their citizen representative. And my understanding has already been sworn in?
Yes.
All right, call the roll, please.
Atkins,
Here.
Bothwell,
Yes.
Broyles,
Here.
Cottle,
Here.
Cows, Hicks,
Here.
Hunt, Nevers,
Here.
Knuckles,
Here.
Pearson,
Here.
Todd,
Here.
Wright,
Here.
Reedy.
Here. I did get a message from Brian Hunt. He was gonna try to join electronically if possible, but I do not see it up there at this time.
Yeah, he's not in here.
All right, so moving on, next on items up, we got quite a few minutes to approve here. We tabled the minutes for approval of the March meeting minutes. We also have May. There were some issues possibly with the minutes from last time, so do we address corrections or are we good to go? So we'll probably do each one individually since each one's kind of specific. Any discussion of the March 6th, 2023 minute meetings, please? We talked with Ryan, he did go through and maybe adjust some things in there that you noticed.
I did not get, I didn't get your corrections.
I didn't get them, we didn't get together to talk about that.
The only thing I
Just
saw,
run 'em. I'll just abstain and just run them. It's okay, we've had enough. But we need to get together, Ryan, and talk about
Right.
that.
okay, so the only thing I saw that may be a little miscue or probably misread is on page, under number 5, the third line. Says the meeting wasn't open, but it was open. It's just a little miscue there. That's the only thing I saw that. If there's no questions, I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes as presented with the one correction.
Chuck, one
Yes.
question, I don't want to stir the pot here, I'm gonna ask Kyle to help me with this. Mr. Hiley's noted a lot in these minutes, and as a result of him not necessarily being qualified for that position at that time, I'd ask Kyle if whatever position he took during those meetings that he was here was good, and I believe that's.
Yes, it's de facto as long as you qualify, so every action he took, even though a residency requirement maybe wasn't met, it is legal and binding. Every vote is.
Okay,
And
thank
that's-
you, just wanted to get that out there.
Thank you for clarification. Then I'll take a motion for somebody to approve the minutes as presented with the correction.
So moved.
First, got a second? Got that? First, second. Call the roll.
Atkins,
Yes.
Bothwell,
Abstain.
Royals,
Yes.
Cottle,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Nevers,
Abstain.
Knuckles,
Yes.
Pearson,
Abstain.
Todd,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
All right, now we'll move on to the March 20th special meeting minutes. So this meeting was basically to confirm or hire Rita, a part-time permit clerk, and we discussed other items, clarified the McCoy property rezoning issue, with some clarifications. Talked about lawyer issues, looking for, and then the comprehensive plan to work for us. I read through them, I thought they appeared to be pretty well in order. Any discussion? I'll take a motion to approve the minutes as presented for the special meeting of March 20th.
So moved.
Second? Make it simple? Second, keep it simple on the counting there, call the roll, please.
Atkins,
Yes.
Bothwell,
Abstain.
Broyles,
Yes.
Cottle,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Nevers,
Abstain.
Knuckles,
Abstain.
Pearson,
Abstain.
Todd,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Reedy,
Yes. All right. Also on that day, March 20th, we went into a special executive session that says employee matters. Just the documentation that we discussed employee matters, with no official action taken. Any discussion? I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
And so seconded. It'll make it so much easier when we get back to this up. Call the roll, please.
Atkins,
Yes.
Bothwell,
No.
Broyles,
Yes.
Cottle,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Nevers,
Abstain.
Knuckles,
Abstain.
Pearson,
Abstain.
Todd,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Reedy,
Yes. So then we'll move on to the minutes of May 1st, regular council meeting or county commissioner meeting. The APC meeting for May 1st. Any discussion? I read through them. The only thing that I had questions about was under number 7, correspondence and other business, where you talked about the BZA having certified mail. I thought we as a group also said we were gonna do that also. Was that the understanding that I had, or remember? That BZA was gonna send out certified mail?
Correct.
I thought we also as a group, when we have things to go out, it was gonna go certified mail also.
That was my understanding.
That's what I thought. I don't see a document in here that we were gonna do the same thing. It just talks about BZA. But I thought that's what we had kind of agreed to, right?
Yeah, the
The
BZA
BZA wanted to do
was
that,
wanting to do that, and
And
we
we-
agreed if BZA does it,
Then
then
we
we should do
probably
it.
should.
Yes, I remember.
but it's
the
not
conversation.
documented in there saying that we were gonna do it. So I think that probably needs to be noted in there.
Mhm.
That'd be under 7.1.
So would you just change it to BZA, and APC? Is that the way you would phrase that in the minutes?
I'd make a motion that we approve the minutes as amended.
Okay, Mr. Boswell makes that with the amendment change,
I'll second that.
and,
As amended.
Tyson seconds it. Call the roll.
Atkins,
Yes.
Bothwell,
Yes.
Broyles,
Yes.
Cottle,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Nevers,
Abstain.
Knuckles,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Wright.
Yes.
Almost there, guys. We had a special meeting on May 15th. At the special meeting, Pearson was appointed to BZA. And then we also interviewed Mr. David Glickfield for the attorney position. Any questions or concerns? Somebody could make a motion?
So moved.
Second? Second? Vote please. Call the roll, please.
Atkins,
Yes.
Bothwell,
Yes.
Broyles,
Yes.
Cottle,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Nevers,
Abstain.
Knuckles,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Todd,
Abstain.
Wright,
Yes.
And one more, immediately following that meeting on May 15th, we had an executive session. Once again, to discuss employee matters, no official actions were taken. Any discussion? Have a motion?
So moved.
Rose? Or not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Busy meeting.
They were getting through. Call roll, please.
Okay,
Can we have a
Atkins,
brief
Yes.
discussion on that?
Would you like to have a discussion on employee matters?
Yeah, well, this doesn't state that it was an executive session, so that probably ought to be amended, so that that's included in there somewhere.
Yeah, in the title, it should say that probably, somewhere.
Good.
I would think
Okay.
that we need to do.
Yes, it should have executive session within that title.
And I'm also suggesting here under number 2 that the meeting was called to discuss personnel issues as authorized, et cetera, but it doesn't say anywhere here that discussion took place. It says we were meeting to order for that purpose.
To discuss,
And
call
then-
to discuss.
And then we probably should indicate that employee matters were discussed, or however it is, personnel issues were discussed, no official actions taken. It doesn't show that we took any, that we actually,
So their number 2 meeting was called to discuss personnel issues. I take that as meaning that we're gonna discuss.
I think what Bob's trying to do is just confirm that it did happen.
Discussion did happen.
yeah.
Fair enough? We have a first, second, and a slight amendment. You guys are good still with it? Call the roll.
Atkins,
Yes.
Bothwell,
Yes,
Royals,
Yes.
Cottle,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Nevers,
Abstain?
Knuckles,
Abstain.
Pearson,
Yes.
Todd,
Abstain.
Wright,
Yes.
All right, good. Thank you. There are no public hearings tonight, so we'll move on to old business. Listed up is a discussion on employee matters related to our building inspector position. I believe everybody was emailed an opinion piece from our attorney, Kyle, on how we should proceed. I think it's my interpretation, if I'm explaining this right, Kyle, basically, we as a board here should maybe be aware of it, but it's still basically is handled through the office, through the director. They handle personnel matters as far as hiring, firing and stuff like that, the hiring process, but we should be consulted and maybe give support.
Well, the executive director recommends, and that's the pleasure of the board.
Okay.
So you do have to take action.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's all employment decisions.
Okay.
I mean, the final authority is the
Right.
board.
Right. Well, maybe I misinterpreted it slightly. So we are here to, what would you like to do, Ryan?
I'd like to put forward a recommendation for termination immediately.
this point of discussion again, I'm sorry to be involved in all of that, but at our last meeting, talked with Mr. Wright, and he acknowledged that the commissioners are the ones that had suspended and indicated that if the person involved were to come back to the building, be arrested for trespass, et cetera, and also, as a result of that, the action was taken out of our hands, which is where it probably should have been, and was placed with the commissioners. I think it's improper for us at this point then to supersede what the commissioners had done, and that they have placed themselves in charge of this. And I don't if there is to be litigation, guys, following this, okay, is the litigation going to be against the parties who have suspended and terminated? Obviously, it would be. And in this case, I don't see us bailing that out. We did not do the suspension. We, Steve, as you acknowledged in the last meeting, indicated you had broad shoulders. You knew that was
But Dr. Bothwell, I did the suspension.
Pardon?
I did the suspension. I'm the one who called Aaron and told him he was suspended.
Recommendations I understood was that it came from the commissioners and that there was an indication from, I don't know whether, maybe Mr. Bardsley, that if that individual were to come back into this building, he would be arrested. Is that correct?
That would, well, that's,
So,
technically that's correct, but there's a lot more to it than just that.
okay. So the commissioners,
But I spoke with our attorney, I spoke with Justin HR. Handbook was explained to me. I'm the one who called and talked to Aaron. So Aaron was suspended through me.
so
But I'll speak to that,
please.
Mr. Bothwell. This body, even though the department is this body's responsibility, this body doesn't pay the paychecks. And so the paychecks comes out of the county. You don't have a budget for that employee. We have to follow this like we do any other employee where a situation comes up, we have to take action. And that's the reason we took the action that we gave that recommendation, going with legal counsel, that we would go ahead and do what we needed to do. Because if we treated this employee different than any other county employee, then that could come back on the county itself. So that's the reason we took the action that we did. And without getting into the muck and the mire of the employee situation, because again, that's the reason we had an executive session on it, that's the direction we took. So however you want to phrase that.
So my question to Kyle would be then, could the commissioners terminate him and it be effective?
No, this board has to terminate,
It has to come from this board.
Yeah, the statute says, and this is duties of the executive director, subject to the approval of the commission, which means the area planning commission, appoint and remove employees of the planning department according to the standards and qualifications fixed by the commission and without regard to political affiliation. So, I mean, this board has to take action to remove an employee or to appoint an employee of the commission only. There's only a few of them.
So the question becomes, the action that the group would take tonight is the action to either dismiss the employee, which that's what your recommendation is, or go ahead and just keep on going without a building inspector.
All right, we need to move on. Okay, so Ryan has asked us if we would like to give approval to terminate such employee. So this would be yes to terminate, no not to. Call the roll.
No, hold on just a minute. Has this person been adjudicated yet in court? Do we know what the situation is with that? Are we, I guess.
That is public knowledge, I think he still has charges.
He has got court dates that have been forwarded into June now. He has not had contact with us. The last contact I have had was with his mother at the beginning of March. We have tried to get a hold of him. We've text messaged, over Facebook. He has had no conversations with anyone of this staff since at least February.
But again, to answer our question, has this moved through the court system? Has it been adjudicated?
No, it has not. Everything's still pending.
So at this point in time, we don't know if the reason for which we are releasing him is valid. We don't know.
Well, I would say that
This is where Kyle comes in with the at-will for Indiana. if I'm not mistaken, we could let him go for any reason. Let alone what we have going on right now. And believe me, I'm the last person who wants to let Aaron go, because you're killing this office.
Based on that, and you've said that repeatedly, and I've asked you to repeat that. Now, the gentleman that we're speaking to has done, in your words, outstanding work. You've been really pleased with him. Should, and we're going to be looking for someone, should he be free of the charges that have formulated the basis for his current circumstance with us, should that go away, you have repeatedly said that you would be happy to have him as a candidate again. Sure. Is that correct? Yeah. So the only thing that we're really basing this on is our need to get an inspector on board, if we can do that. I think there's a way for us to do that and to allow this to be put off until there is some kind of judgment that is made that gives us a basis for termination.
The basis.
At this point, I don't think
Robert,
the basis is there.
we've had enough discussion. The basis is, it's an at will, it's an at will that we can terminate anybody at any time. By lack of not telling us what's going on, that should be plenty. We've been strung on now for months. We need to move on, stop, right, we need to stop his ability to accumulate back pay. And if it is resolved, it is resolved, it'll be resolved however it is. If he comes and everything's cleared, and we are still in need of one, a building inspector or whatever, then there may be an opportunity for him to come back, but we need to move on.
Okay, that's what I was just trying to explain. I believe that there is a way for us to move on without having to take this kind of action at this point in time. Now, we had suggested, in fact, there is a person out there that Ryan is very well aware of, and has done exemplary work for us in this area, and that's Ryan's dad, Rex. However,
looked into that.
However, there is a nepotism kind of thing, correct? Now, Kyle, if I'm, I'm trying to look for solutions, and I've come in and I've talked with Ryan about this, and so, Brenda right now is the office manager. Brenda is not in charge of any personnel. All the personnel in the office report directly to Ryan, okay? That would mean that if Mr. Malott were to come back into this position, he would be reporting directly to his son, and that would apparently put us into a nepotistic. Okay, if we were to assign part-time personnel in the office and substitute people to Brenda, and all full-time people would report directly to Ryan, then that would mean that Mr. Malott, as he comes in, would report directly to his supervisor, which would be Brenda, and that would avoid the nepotism kind of situation, and we would have a fully qualified person for as long as it might take, which it should be resolved within a month or two, certainly by the time we meet again. So, is that a possibility?
Yeah. I mean, that's splitting hairs. I mean, that's
Yeah.
better than,
Yeah.
Obviously by state law, you can't be in direct line of supervision.
Right.
I mean,
But this would be indirect, so
well,
he'd be able to do that. Similar,
Because I would still ultimately be responsible for it.
right. I mean, I think it is. I mean, it's very,
Your experience with schools, did you not have perhaps a superintendent who had a wife that was a teacher? She reported directly to the principal, which avoided nepotism, and it was okay for that to happen. I know that happened in our system quite often. So
that's, recent. Nepotism statute's been a little more recent,
Yeah.
probably since after you and I left the schools,
I
but yeah,
understand
probably
that.
still
So that's the
happens,
reason I'm
yeah.
talking to you about it now. Would this work?
So, I mean, you could take that position, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Is it the most strongest foundation? I'd say no, but I mean,
But
you
it's
could
only
take
gonna
that
be
position.
temporary to begin with. I think we'd be in good shape until such time as somebody, you know, might take issue. And I think it would stand, I think it would stand in a court. Anyway, it's a possibility, guys, of us being able to move on immediately and have a qualified person there and not have to take punitive action against.
But what if we miss out on a potentially strong candidate because we're playing around doing what ifs?
Well,
You
at
know,
the time you get a strong candidate, then we take the action and we employ that person.
If I've got, you know, again, Dad would love to help, but you're throwing a Band-Aid on something that we've been bleeding on for over 6 months.
That's what we need is a.
Not just solve the problem and
You know, part of what I want, another situation I wanna talk about tonight is shifting staff, and we talk about a qualified individual. We have tried for a couple months now, for $37,000, we're not going to get an ICC certified building inspector. No matter who I bring in, I'm gonna have to train, and it's gonna take me months to get whoever to ICC certification. What I'd like to do is bring Nicole in, who is also already ICC trained and is just short of passing her ICC certification to be a building inspector. That is my hopes to talk about later, but.
we shouldn't have any impact on this though.
No. The issue is, we got an employee issue that our director was to recommend the termination, and that is the question at hand.
I got a question. Ryan, in the event that we supported the staffing movement that you wanted, and in the event that Aaron was able to come back, there's nothing to say that he would have to come back as the building inspector. He could come back at some other capacity if you chose to place him there.
Right. I just, you know, Aaron went from keeping us in 100% contact to no contact in months. His situation, again, I don't want to talk about it here. We kind of talked about it in executive session, but it has not got better, and it's got further and further pushed out to where it's just attorneys talking with him not even present. So as far as we know, for next month and a half, it's just attorneys meeting. So again, we are in the middle of busy season, we had 19 inspections one day, plus a 2 o'clock meeting with the Jonesboro mayor. So, I mean, it was an impossible schedule for Nicole and I to get done together, let alone, you know, that's where we are right now, that's the season we're in. And we're just getting farther and farther and farther behind, because we don't have that building inspector. And, you know, I have true faith in Nicole and what she's done. I think she's been out there quite a bit for the last 6 months, and I think the contractors respect her. They call her with questions, and I think she's just short of ICC certification, which would make her a B1 structural building inspector. It puts it in a position that her current secretary is code enforcement, who lets her train the next code enforcement officer and also a code enforcement secretary as they come in. I can help out by being building inspector while she's training the code enforcement individuals. So, you know, again, we've kind of sat down as an office and said, how can we make this work? We know we're not going to get an ICC certified building inspector in there. How can we make it work? That's what I would like to see. And again, we've kind of kicked this and kicked it and kicked it, where I, you know, my hope was March, April, we were taking care of this. And you know, now we're into June, we don't meet in July, we're gonna do something in August. So, you know, we're just, again, on behalf of the staff, we're worn out, to be quite honest.
All right, so circle back, that we have a request from our director to permission to terminate. Yes vote, to terminate, no vote, no. Ready for a roll call?
don't have a motion, I don't think, do
We don't have to have a motion, I don't think he's requesting something,
I
right?
think, yeah, should have a motion.
Okay, that'll be so moved to follow the Director Vilat's
Okay.
recommendation.
Second. All right,
Atkins,
Ryan, I'd support any internal staff movement that you'd want to make in order to meet your needs. As far as the termination of Aaron at this time, I cannot support that.
Bothwell,
No, with emphasis.
Royals,
Yes, with regrets.
Cottle,
No on this one.
Hicks,
No.
Nevers,
Abstain?
Knuckles,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
got five. 5 yeses, 4 noes, 1 abstain.
yes.
Chuck is yes. So that makes 6 yeses. So we have. Should have 7. It's 641.
You gotta have 7.
I have something.
I'd like to make a motion that we allow Ryan to do whatever internal movements that he wants with his current staff.
I'll second that.
Okay,
Question
any
about,
discussion?
yes, I have a question about that. We doing this on a temporary basis, or are we making a decision on massive turnover in our office on a permanent thing? Temporary, I can support that, but I think we need to consider the emphasis of that. In fact, doing it temporarily to see how it works would be really good before we make that kind of thing, because I don't know where we're gonna go with some of the others. We end up with the same number of personnel that we currently have, which isn't getting us there. We're going to end up needing to do more.
So we're looking to get code enforcement secretary to full-time.
So I would support us making this move, or what it is that you suggested, Randy, but do it temporarily and revisit it for permanency in, a couple months.
But I mean, that's what they currently are doing. Nicole is basically backfilling into the inspector's job. The code enforcement section is dropping, but not being neglected, because Nicole's over here. We still need a person, a body.
And I can't hire,
This isn't fixing anything.
I can't hire a code enforcement secretary because Aaron's still on payroll. So I don't have the money for the staff.
It'd be a temporary position that you would hire somebody for, correct?
I can't pay both of them. They both have to come out of the same fund.
He doesn't have a choice.
So the thing is, if we do, which we've made a decision apparently not to terminate Aaron, so his wages could ultimately accumulate, this will still be accumulating, and if we were to hire or find somebody to hire,
I can't hire anyone
without an adjustment in pay.
I got $37,000 for that fund. Right now, he is at 17,208, I believe.
So we've hamstrung ourselves
Handcuffing.
by not getting rid of somebody who's not responding, and they should, and I understand he's got a terrible situation that none of us would want to be in. But if we might as well close the county down if we're not gonna have somebody do the building inspector. And we need to pass a motion to let him terminate our employee, and I hate to see it go. He's a good guy, I met him. But how are we gonna move forward if we say, well, we'll just wait until a few more months?
But the problem I
Because
have,
how many permits have we got people going for? How many building inspections? do we
We've got 329 permits as of today.
And I'm averaging about 19 inspections a day. So let me know when you want the unsafe buildings to come down.
You should be by Christmas or something.
If there is a dead season, right now we haven't even seen a slow season. So
Yeah.
currently, where we stand right now, no unsafe buildings can come down while we're doing building permits.
I'm getting on average 8 to 10 permits a day.
So,
That's good news for the
And can I
economy.
also mention that we're trying to get new software into place. So we have Rita trying to catch up the new software while
I'm doing
Katie's
it too.
alone by herself doing permits and trying to help Rita.
And phone calls and
Nicole's
scheduling.
trying to be code enforcement officer even though she can't get away from building inspector, so generally, she'll hand me what she can't get to, or we throw them on her call and move them, and, I mean, right now, we're, you know, robbing Peter to pay Paul sort of thing.
And I try to
we're
follow
moving
code enforcement when I
backwards.
can.
we're not getting done what the county's business needs to be.
And-
Like I said, I hate to let this guy go. I met him, he's a nice guy. He's professional in what he's done, in my interaction with him.
But that part is, we've just passed that part of it. To help with what we're talking
Well,
about here.
Well, now we're stuck, and the last vote just stuck these people with an impossible job,
We don't have to be if we'll bring Mr. Malad on.
which is somewhat dubious, am I right, Kyle?
Yeah.
It's
not dubious.
yeah, it is, because it's like, you think, it's a done deal if she is the boss, but who's her boss? He is.
Yes.
So,
Right.
looks to me like he's in charge. And so, while I would love to have him show up, because I know he has tremendous skills, if there was another way to do it, would be as a,
The problem
I
that
don't know.
we're facing here currently would be resolved on a temporary basis by doing just that. We could take care of, we'd have that.
I don't think it resolves that at all.
But irregardless, I would be happy to support Brandy's motion that's on the floor if it were on a temporary basis for us to consider for permanency after we've seen how that's going to work out. I don't think we make these kind of personnel changes
We're not making a
we just
forever
throw it
change.
out and we're gonna do this.
If we say he's in control of it, he makes changes, and we disagree with it later on down the line, we say, okay, you're not in control of it now, okay? It's,
see, David, my problem with this from the beginning is that the decision with Kyle was never brought to this commission. I believe there could have been some creative ways of kept him on staff to assist Ryan, maybe in a different capacity, without suspending him with the possibility of him gaining pay. You know, as a business person, I would have trouble putting, if I could creatively find some role for that person to serve, whether it be in the office, because I believe, this isn't, am I speaking out of?
You're free to say whatever you want to say.
Well, I don't want to get into personnel issues that are confidential that.
I mean, that's your own discretion, that's your own discretion.
Okay. See, who's to say that he couldn't have been utilized in the office in a different capacity to help these folks get through their day and not run the risk of what he was removed for?
I mean, he sure could have, but right now we're dealing with what we have. There's no way to go back in time that I'm aware of to fix that. Yes, it should have been done that way, but it wasn't, so we have to remedy the situation.
It was the
currently
policy
standing.
handbook
As
that
to
called
this
for what
point,
was.
that's already been,
if he cared about the job, he should have been communicating, in my opinion. Yes, and I understand he's under a lot of stress, that's understandable. But what we've done right now is we've hamstrung their ability to get the job done, made their job a
Which
whole
is
lot harder.
harming the people of Green County. I mean,
Right, harming the
if I
people
was
of Grant County,
in
we're
need of a
supposed to
building
be
permit,
working for them.
CFO, I'd be upset.
And I hate to let this guy go. But if we don't, he can't be replaced.
At this
And these
point
guys
in
are really
time-
jammed up. You're saying these people should be
I'm
working their
saying
ass off and not get anything done.
that this has already been resolved in our last vote
We could have
a
a
motion on the floor for the next item.
We have
A
discussion
motion on the floor was from Mr. Atkins, and we were having a discussion about that. And that's the one that we need to be dealing with at this time. We're already past the situation that we just voted on. So we need to deal with, Mr. President, we need to deal with the motion that we have on the floor. I am
Mr. Atkins, can
suggesting
you
on
please
that.
repeat what you want?
I am in support of, I would support Ryan's recommendation to us to align his internal staff however he feels necessary to meet his needs.
And my recommendation was I would like for Mr. Atkins to amend that to be on temporary status, to be reviewed after he has made those recommendations for permanency in a couple of months. When we meet in August, we see how that has worked. If it's worked well, great. But let's do it temporarily rather than be making
Are you willing to
wholesale
do that?
changes.
But I can't do it if we don't get rid of Eric, so.
So it's a moot point.
Okay.
And what are we here for? Not more moot points.
And I would also like to point out, the numbers this staff has put out the last 2 years, I can't believe you would question. Just, these guys have given you 2 of your best years ever.
And we just made it harder on them. To no purpose, for longer.
I'll make a comment if pleasure of the chair. If you remember correctly, back of the last year, that, you know, the overall tendency from this board by individuals was to take a look at Ryan's performance and more or less say, get rid of him. That was what this board was talking about. What if we would have taken action to do that and be in the position we are right now? I
don't think that ever happened, Steve.
Oh, it did. Oh, it did.
I don't think that was the
No.
position. I think that's a misinterpretation of what you.
There was a
The president at the time was threatening his job because of his response on issues. He was being threatened. This is true. I'll swear to this all day long.
It would be, an individual might have done that. That was not the intent of this board.
Well,
Not in any way, shape, or form.
I just want to point out that when you talk about something temporary, how does he know with the way the actions was going to be at the end of last year, that temporary thing would be not granted or whatever? I just, like I say, we've painted him into a box tonight by taking the action that we did. And kind of sad for the county, really is. That's my take, just personal point.
So by your motion, really, I don't know if it really solves anything. I mean, yes, they could still continue to train, but we're still short a person. Until we have the ability, freed up salary to be able to hire somebody, they're still gonna be short.
And they're working hard.
The only thing I can say is, I don't know if technically we revote tonight, but we do have a budget hearing coming up in 2 weeks about, somewhere around there.
But the budgets will come out this week, worksheets due back July 1st, and budget, usually we're like second week of
I thought we're
August.
getting together this month to review the budgets. No? Yes?
So August would be our budget hearing, and then I think beginning of October salary. Sound right?
Something like that.
So that would be our budgeting for next year.
Question, Chuck.
Yes.
Frank, does the council have any idea of the staffing dilemma that Area Planning Commission office is in at this time?
I don't know, but I know there's just a certain amount that they're budgeted for, and they gotta live within that.
So if we were to approach the council with our dilemma and seek funds to cover in the event that Aaron would come back, have we done that?
And it's on the agenda. I actually got a call into Shane to talk about it tomorrow.
Okay. So it could be that this budget dilemma that we're in could be resolved through the council action.
Well, the issue we have with the 17,200, which is again, something else we're gonna talk about tonight. We've got 9,000 that we've got to either appropriate for part-time. We'd have another 4,000 to appropriate for the lawyer raise. So of the 17,000 right now that we would owe Aaron, should all charges get dropped, 14,000 of that we could use right now to cover part-time staff budget and the lawyer for the rest of this year.
I would like to see the reaction of the council with that request that you're gonna make.
I wanna talk to Shane, if we know at some point that 17 may come back as back pay, can we use this now to cover our needs now and know that then, or does he wanna hold that 17 and now?
Yes, I would like to hear what the council would say in regard to that.
I've got that in here to talk about.
Okay.
See, what I'm not understanding about the turning down the vote to terminate Aaron is what you hope to, people who voted against that, what you hope to accomplish, what you think is being accomplished by not doing that. And I feel for his position and his situation and all, but we need to give these people what they need to move on. And right now, we're just like, well, let's go backwards, see how far backwards we can go. Geez, guys, we're not doing it, this is not a game. Let's give the workers what they need to do to work. Let's get the finances in order. We don't have an unlimited supply of cash. If we let him go and he gets cleared of everything, fine, hire him back. I'm all for it. But in the meantime, it serves the county not at all to do it. I don't see how it does. If anybody who voted against it, please explain to me what you have in mind, because I don't get it.
I don't believe we've exhausted all possibilities yet in order to honor Aaron with the good work that he's done for us with this unfortunate dilemma that he unfortunately got himself in.
I agree with what you say, but that doesn't mean we can abdicate our jobs here and not do it.
I think you missed the fact that I said, until we exhaust all possibilities.
What time frame did you have in mind? Because these guys are short on time. And
we've got one on the table that Ryan just shared with us in regard to going to the council.
When do they next meet?
When would be the soonest?
21st, but that's to use his unused salary, not to add additional. I mean, if he's still employed, that salary just grows by pay period. So I'd be going to ask for $9,000 for part-time, $4,000 for a lawyer, and another salary, part-time salary for the years at 1270 is $18,000.
And we just
$9,000 additional salary to cover someone else to come in part-time instead of full-time.
You know, guys, we sit and look at this and try to look at what's going to happen out in the future a little bit. Something maybe Kyle could help us with. But if we're talking about $17,000, if charges are dropped and so on, and we have made statements about his work being exemplary, et cetera, et cetera.
Indeed. If he had called me since February, I'd be right behind you.
Just a minute. If this person that we're talking about is terminated now, whatever, and then the charges are dropped, do you think that we're going to be in a position that he's just going to accept his back pay and go willy-nilly on his way? Do you think that he is going to want to come back to a situation that we have helped exasperate? We have furthered the situation for him. I don't think anybody could deny that what's going on here has added to the stress of what he had gotten himself into, etc. I'm guessing that there's going to be litigation. Certainly if it were me, I'd be litigating, and it wouldn't be just for my back pay.
I know you would, Bob, but I don't see Aaron being that person.
Well, it may not be, maybe somebody does that on Aaron's behalf. So what you're trying to do, what you're trying to save is the county a much greater liability than we have now.
Isn't that
I think
will
we can
work?
protect that, and we're not hurting things at all. We're still not adding the person, but if we want to add the person, let's go out and add a person, and we hire them, as a part-time or a temporary employee.
Ryan just
until
says
such
we don't
time
have the
that
money.
We release
We
Aaron.
don't have the money.
And becomes full-time.
We don't have the money.
Well, I think we can ask and get that. That's what we're talking to Mr. Hicks about, is being able to do that. But
You got some part-time money you can throw at anybody? No, do you?
At the same time, like we talked about last month, I don't wanna go nickel and dime the council and then turn around the following month and ask for a budget.
We don't have the money. We need a worker. We have a guy that's not been showing up, not been communicating at all. It's an at-will job. I'm sorry, he's a good man, that I know, as far as I know.
But that,
And get rid of him now, and if everything clears up, then hire him back.
well, we're beating a dead horse. That decision has already been made. We're, again, trying to bring it back to Mr. Atkins' motion about what we're doing here. So if he's not wanting to amend it, which is fine, then we need to be taking a vote on the motion that he has made. We need to get a second for it in the first place, and then we need to move forward.
To be clear, what was the motion?
That we allow Ryan to move his internal staff at whatever position he chooses best meets his needs as director.
I second that.
But gentlemen, I can't do it because I can't pay.
There's no pay.
I can't hire the assistant. I can move Nicole up, I can move Katie up, but I can't hire a code enforcement secretary because I don't have budget, because we're paying it to Aaron.
And I'm just gonna, we've been.
So we
on
just
this-
status quo, guys.
It doesn't change anything.
Well, I would like to revisit this if needed upon the decision of the council for the request for additional funds.
Won't that be in August though?
It could be,
I mean, we don't meet next in July.
unless we have business, this sounds like we have business. I mean, I hate to say it, but we gotta get this off the staff. And one method, and probably it may not be the quickest, well, with the adjustments, it's a plan that Ryan believes it can work. Shifting people around, it's a lot easier to hire a part-time person than it is a full-time person. We're tying Ryan's hands to, run the office. He's been looking and looking for a full-time person. They just aren't out there. So we do have a motion on the floor, and it's been seconded. I really don't know what to say. I mean, call a roll that allow Ryan, which is what he's been doing already.
I think he already made a recommendation of what he wanted to do.
Well, that's what he wants to do, but he wants to.
So now we're voting to let him do what he wants to do when we
Apparently.
just said to not do what he wants to do. That didn't make any sense.
Welcome to the APC.
Well, I'm really not sure. If we vote yes, it's basically what he's currently doing, which he wanted to do, with the hopes of us allowing to terminate so he can get somebody else pulled in. So right now, we're just telling him, yes, that move your people around, which as executive director, he's been doing to get the job done. But we're not gonna let you have any more people right now.
And we're gonna keep that money from happening, that we need, because we need somebody in that job. This ain't rocket science, kids, Jesus.
Okay,
Mr. President, could I address the board for a minute? As long as you have a motion on the floor, a lot of times it's public discussion with a motion.
Being that you are president of the BZA, I'll let you speak.
Oh, I'm not sure what that is. But okay, I can wait. Maybe you make a good point, because we also have work performed by Aaron for the BZA. There's one thing that seems to be unusual in that when you look at the handbook, nobody's mentioned, it says if Aaron's not guilty, he can return and receive all his back pay for his job, okay? So if you terminate him, how's that affect that? That's kind of a strange situation then, isn't it? He'd still be eligible for all his back pay when he's found not guilty? Okay. All right, so then it's kind of a moot point. Why would you terminate? Additionally, you're talking about an additional appropriation for an attorney raising his salary from 12 to 20,000. You're not in negative situation with your payroll. Right now, you have excess funds because Aaron hasn't been using his salary. So you're not negative. There's not a need for an additional appropriation right now. You could go right ahead and hire somebody temporarily, and later you could propose to the council either a transfer of funds if you have an excess fund, or an additional appropriation, which you're looking at now anyway. So you could hire a temporary employee and ask for an additional appropriation if you wanted to. Those are options that you have right now. You don't have to feel like you're boxed in and he can't employ anybody because there is no money, because that money is a possibility. All you have to do is ask for it. If you were to get turned down this month, that's a different situation. But those options are available.
But again, maybe you didn't, out of the 17,000, I've got $9,000 that's not budgeted for my two part-time.
I understand, but whatever bucket you're pulling it from, your payroll's not negative, so there's not an important situation that we need to move on right now, like terminating somebody. And remember, if you hadn't set him aside, he might still have been here working.
The handbook said we couldn't. Is that right?
Yeah,
The handbook said we couldn't, so we had to.
The handbook
said may.
may, it did not say must, if you're not even charged. He was dismissed when he wasn't even charged. Not dismissed, sorry, suspended.
Kyle, do you have any thoughts on that? Or you just want to run away? What's your call?
He's close to running away.
He's trying to. Does the handbook require us to, somebody with those charges to?
He was charged at the time.
He was charged at the time, so that is.
Charges were pending. They were felony charges.
And so we had to, by the handbook, by the county's handbook, we had to follow the rules.
The handbook is, I mean, you know, you're obviously subject to discretion. You can do whatever you want. I mean, the question at the time was, my answer is always, if you have a written handbook, you should follow it. You know, if you don't, then you're subject to litigation. I mean, obviously, I've got a lot of opinions on litigation. I got a lot of opinions on what was said. I mean, I'd rather leave it out of the public meeting because I don't think it's a good idea to talk about speculative legal matters, especially when you're advising somebody else.
And I fully expect him to be exonerated, but if he is not, and we kept him on the job.
You can, and to get a temporary employee, you know, Indiana law requires the county council to do that, as Frank knows. I mean, there's a salary ordinance and a salary book. You can't just create someone. That the council has discretion. There's no doubt about that, but that directly lies with the county council and the county. They set the number of employees and they set the number of the employee's salary.
Could we at the time, instead of suspending Aaron, could we have let him go due to the nature of his charges?
Well, I mean, obviously, that's the discretion, the APC. I mean, yeah, you could have done that at any time.
So we did the softer, gentler.
Definitely.
Yeah.
we go back to the motion that's been on the floor and seconded to allow Ryan to run his office as he sees best fit? With no approval about hiring.
As he sees his best fit, yeah.
I mean, you can vote yes, I still don't have I don't have the money for it.
Doesn't change the damn thing. To the better.
All right, unless you're withdrawn, we'll call the roll.
Let's call the roll.
Atkins?
Yes.
Bothwell?
No.
Broyles?
Yes.
Cottle?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Nevers?
Abstain?
Knuckles?
No.
Pearson?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
It's 7 to 2 to 1.
Just on that.
So it passes, but again, I can't
You can't.
hire anyone. It doesn't change it.
And clarifying, it just gives him the ability to run his office like he needs to. That's the reason I voted
I mean, I'm running it.
the way it is.
The whole
Right?
building is-
That's already-
It doesn't change anything for us at all.
All right, next up on the agenda is rules and procedures. Okay, Mr. Boswell gave us a copy of updates that he thought we needed for rules and procedures. I think we were handed a copy of, did we actually get, I got a copy. Current copy of the rules and procedures. I printed out a copy of my own. I'm not sure if everybody got a copy of the rules and procedures. Mr. Boswell handed us this meeting or so back. The adjustments that he thought were needed. Are we ready to proceed on, at least, Ms. Boswell, would you like to go over what your thoughts were on the adjustments, or how would you, could you and Lois are gonna maybe,
Lois, sit for just a second, please. If it please you, you folks, the principle that I'd like for us to think about and adopt to give us direction. I think before we begin to act on these, adopt them individually or reject them or whatever it happens to be, I think it'd be proper for our committee that you established to talk with Ryan. I think Ryan probably has some thoughts and suggestions. Is that correct, Ryan? And so if that's the case, if there's, input to come from people outside the committee, we ought to get together and be able to work this thing together to present it to you. And so we'd be happy to do that. There are two things, though, that we need to know before we're able to sit down. Kyle, we talked with you, in fact, I think the first time I talked with you was about 3 years ago, and talked with you as recently as 3 or 4 months ago about some things that need to be changed with our CAFO and moving something to a second hearing without prejudice. And we haven't heard back on that. Could you look at those items that we talked about and get back to me about how we should deal with that?
Sure.
We can't really deal with the changes until we get this input and know where we are going with that. for example, what we're talking about, there is a procedure that requires 2 steps. And we only have 3 options. You either approve it, you deny it, or you approve it conditionally. It got us in a lot of trouble. In fact, got us sued when we were dealing with the CAFO. Because why can't we move it to a second reading without prejudice? Why do we have to deny? We weren't in a position after the first hearing. We weren't ready to deny, we weren't ready to approve. But to get it to the second hearing, you have to do one of those 2 things or conditionally approve it. We weren't ready to do any of that. We should be able to move to the second hearing without prejudice. And so that was one of the questions that's before Kyle. You know, can we, and who is it that sets up that process? Can we do that within our own group? Is that a local kind of thing, or is that established by the county? Is it established by code? You know, I don't know where that comes from, so we need to talk a little bit about that. That's one of those 2 items. The second thing, as an overall principle, I guess maybe there's 2 parts to it. One, as we get ready to consider rules and regulations, the more we write, the more we box ourselves in. Okay? From an administrative point of view, from Ryan's perspective and by this commission's perspective, if you write this rule down, we've got something, boy, by golly, we're gonna cover this with a rule. And so we cover that one with a rule, and some circumstance comes up later on, and that rule, it applies, but that's really not what we want to do. I guess what I'm trying to say, again, I said this at the last meeting, is when you're talking about rules and regulations and you're drawing up your own rules, we have to abide by certain rules and regulations, that's for sure. But the fewer that we have in writing gives us more opportunity for autonomy, okay? The more you try to specify things, the broader you make this thing, and you're going to write it out, and I'm going to specifically forbid this and this and this and this. Then there comes a circumstance, and that rule has got you boxed in. So from the executive director's position, he needs to have as much autonomy as he can to deal with the situations that vary from day to day. You can't write a rule to cover everything. And if we try to do that, we try to get too wordy with that thing, we are simply hurting ourselves. So that's just an overall thought as we get ready to consider the things. A second part of that is many of the rules that we are looking at are covered by state code. And then we restate them in our rules. So there's a redundancy there, kind of thing. Or it's already covered by the county code, the county handbook is already there, and we're restating. I would suggest, as we go through here, anything that we have in our local rules and regulations that are covered by state code, that's it, we throw it out of our local. We don't need to do that. We go by what the county, by what state code is. We don't need to improve or take away, we can't take away from state code, and we don't need to try to improve upon that. If it's covered by state code, that's enough.
Should we mention what the state code is in those situations?
Yes, right. Even if, I'm not even sure the subject needs to occur. But anyway, the bottom line is, whatever is in state code, that should be enough. We shouldn't have to weaponize it or make it greater than it was, or, whatever. Just a thought in general about where we're going. State code, fine, we don't need to talk about that. If it's state code and or county handbook, fine, that's not for us to be messing with anyway. We go by those. And then if there are areas that they don't deal with, that we need to deal with, those are the things we ought to be looking at. So that's where the committee is gonna be coming from as we go in and talk with Ryan. We need information from Kyle. I'll talk with you more about specifically what it is that we need. And we'll address that then at our, as soon as we have an opportunity to address those things. But I want to include Ryan rather than us suggest something. Ryan, well, I think we ought to do it, let's do it together.
I would agree, but your committee's had this for several years. I would have thought, and I think our direction was way back then to have Ryan included in helping formulate this to address exactly what you're saying. And now we're just getting to the point that, well, now we're gonna get the executive director involved in his take on it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not what the direction was for the committee review the staff. That was your intent, I'm sure. I think Ryan had already gone through some rules and regulations before you even formulated our committee. That was not our charge.
Yeah.
However, I think it should have been. And I think that's what we want to do. So let's.
I went back and reviewed the video after our discussion. Our number one goal was to get in line with the Indiana code.
Yeah.
I handed out workbooks. We had about a 20-minute conversation on it. Never, so it was definitely.
We're on the same wavelength, but we need to get together so that when we come back in here, we're not gonna be arguing back and forth.
I'm not arguing.
I know.
You're talking about boxing us in. In the last year and a half, because we didn't have the rules at our fingertips, it cost us quite a bit of embarrassment. I mean, even to the point that we read the rules from the book directly and they were wrong. So.
That's what we're going to get together and we'll come back with recommendations.
Mr. Wright, you have a comment?
Does that sound right to you, Lois? Okay.
Mr. Wright, you have a comment?
Yeah, Mr. President, I'm really, only been doing this about a year, and I know we got people on here that's been doing it less time than I have, so help us understand why our rule should be different than what the state statute says. Why is it? Well, then we're writing our own rules. Is that what I'm hearing you say, or?
We're saying that the rules are already there. We have local rules and regulations.
But I know that, but why do we have that when you got state statute that we have to live by?
Because there are a few areas that state statute doesn't address that need to be addressed. Those are things that ought to be in the local. And I'm in agreement with you. If the code is covering this issue, we don't need it. We don't need it.
I think we need it within the procedures, our rules and procedures. We need all that stuff listed so that we're not, I think it's in here, I can dig through and either delay in a meeting. It all should be incorporated into our rules and procedures.
Yeah, so again, I go back and say, when I first came on, I looked at the attendance sheet, right? In our local rules, it said anybody that missed more than 3 meetings in a row, that we would go to the appointment or appointee to have that person replaced. We had people on here missing 7 meetings in a row. I mean, our rules, we weren't even following our rules, so why have rules? That's not state statute.
That's part of what we're talking about. The reason we need to review this, and whatever we end up with, guys, what he's saying, we need to enforce. Don't put it in the book if we're not going to enforce it.
I totally agree.
That's what you're saying. And Steve, to that end, that piece of information that you gave us and talked about 18 meetings, could we have that?
Yeah, I'll see if I can find that.
I would really appreciate having that. Okay. And at the time, I think you said something about, guys, this is a real problem, and if you don't get it changed or something, I'll make it public.
Well,
I just want to speak for.
Yeah, we haven't had that problem. I think our attendance has just been awesome. I really do. It is.
Pretty good since.
It really has, once it was pointed out.
I just want you to know that rather than say, if this doesn't happen or doesn't change, I'm going to do this, go ahead and do it. Just for me, that's all right. I would be indicted along with, a whole bunch of them.
I think it was over half.
Threatening, just do it.
Yeah.
I thought we would be in a position where there would have been collaboration along the way. Now we're asking Ryan to now set aside quite a bit of time while they're extremely busy now to address this.
I think he wants to.
I think he does, I know he wants to, but time, time, man.
Well, again, as I said at the other meeting, this rules of procedure according to Indiana Planning Association is about a 2-month exercise. We handed out the worksheets in November 2021, and we still haven't finished that. After a year with doing nothing, I went through and just did. So, I mean, you guys have seen that. I've handed them out.
Copies of your.
It's, my version still has 20 questions in it. So it's not finished. There's, like Dr. Bothwell said, there are places that it could be this or this, and it's for you guys to decide.
You sit down and see what we've got, and see if we can't come up with it. And there may be some things that we, that we just.
And I would ask, is there anyone else interested in being on?
Anybody else like to sit in?
I mean, no disrespect to Lois.
Right.
But Lois hasn't been on the APC since December 2021. Does anyone else?
Then maybe you and I can.
Yeah. Sometimes
it's easier just to get a couple people.
Let us know, let me know, and I'll let you all swing in too, but.
That's not what I'm saying about this.
Just make it clear.
I'm doing your rules with you guys too.
So, all right. Is that okay? What we're talking about doing, Mr. President?
All right. New business with budget review, Ryan? I think you got handed out
I emailed everyone this stuff, so you got a lot of handouts because I wasn't sure who would bring the copies of their emails with them, so. This is the official budget worksheets will look like this. They come out this week from the auditor's office. I tried to fill in as much as I could with the information we've got so far this year. This would include the overall budget, the unsafe building structure, salaries. I've also included in here, Nicole and Katie put together demolition, kind of a demolition list. If you look at that right now, we've got 5 things that we could bring down. You notice about 80% of the page is stuff that we still need to get to court or get the attorney letters. Normally Nicole would have about half of this page filled up with things ready to come down. So this just kind of showing how far behind we are on code enforcement and unsafe structures. And then the last page is just kind of showing, one, the upper is if we moved the positions around within the office, what we could do as far as salaries, with keeping our salaries the same, while moving Nicole and Katie up. So our salary reallocation would not add any additional monies to our budget. And then next year again showing, this would be year 3 of trying to get the code enforcement secretary up to full time on the bottom part. Yeah, I've extended out. I mean, I went all the way back to 2019. I think Angie usually goes back 3 years. I just like extending them.
Is this what you give the council?
Well, I will give the council what Angie gives us, but it'll look like this.
Okay, she'll give you the tip for you to fill in the blanks.
Yeah, I just extended it out and put the extra years in.
Okay.
Looks like good work, Brian.
Thank you. I did note on garage and motors, the gas pump went out, so our gas keys didn't work, so we've been having to write down. They did get that fixed today, but we've got on there where it says for half the year, we went from 15,000 down to 13,900. We've got two pretty big bills. We haven't had a bill since February, so we'll probably chew at least half of that up when those bills come through. So again, in the orange is what was budgeted, what we used out of the budget, until you get to 2023, which we're still in the middle of. So you can kind of see, throughout where we had 1,400, but you then used 22 of it. 1,400, used 935 of it.
Any other questions? So basically, it moves everybody over, trying to improve, make some slight adjustments.
And again, I've tried to say this everywhere I go. If you look at our bottom line there and what the county council has done for us in the last 3 years, our budget has went from 163 in 2019 up to 284 in 2023. So, I mean, they have been over backwards. I try to include them in a lot of the stuff that we hand out on what we're doing because I want them to know the money they're giving us is generating unsafe building structures coming in. So we're trying to put their money to work. That's when I say I don't want to go in right before budget time and nickel and dime and then ask for more come budget time when they have given us, the world, they really have.
Just a thought about budgets and the salaries. And by voting to not terminate Aaron, who's a building inspector, we have these unsafe buildings, because there was concern we might get sued on that at some point. If an unsafe building hurts somebody because a building inspector was not available, where does that leave us legally? Because we had a chance to have a building inspector, we said, no, we don't want to have a building inspector. So where does that put us legally? The potential lawsuit of a unsafe building. Does that not compromise us and perhaps leave us to a greater liability?
Well, there's a lot of governmental immunities, for discretionary actions. So.
But still, does that not?
Well, that's what I'm
potentially
saying.
open us
There's a
up?
lot of immunities out there for government, so I don't think it,
Well, not individuals perhaps, but the county itself said, oh, wait, you guys.
Correct.
You guys didn't provide what you're supposed to do. You said, we don't really want somebody doing that because it would defame the guy who we need to get rid of. Not because he isn't effective, but because he's unavailable. We need to have somebody available.
I think what he's saying, Dave, is hard to sue.
But not impossible.
It's easy to sue, it's hard to win.
Winning is different than suing.
Very easy to sue.
Okay, so also, we'll move along. And everybody okay on budget? Thing I need to throw in here is, we do have a contract made up for potential lawyer or lawyer that's willing to come and work with us. Everybody should have got a copy.
Agreement to provide legal services.
Yes. Kyle, you made this up, I do believe.
Yes.
Right now, it states in there a salary of 20,000, which we basically do have, although we're gonna go ask for more, because like say with unused funds from Kyle or from Aaron's position, would cover that, and or you just get an additional appropriation to cover the balance of the half year. I think we had a very favorable meeting with them, and we directed Kyle and to draft up the language, or draft up an agreement, a legal agreement, which is there, and then I think it's ready to go. Only thing I would say is maybe with the 20,000 in there, it has not officially been approved through the county council, right? But we could make it conditional on their approval of that, is what I would recommend.
That was my understanding, Chuck, is we weren't gonna, he wasn't locked into 20 grand. If he would accept, he accepted at 12 unless the council approved the additional funds. And I think by having it in here unconditionally, you're telling him he's gonna get paid 20,000.
Well, that's why I'm saying we probably need to approve this with the condition of a county
Approval.
county council, right?
I could add a sentence in, or I don't know, Ryan, you were gonna go to the council meeting.
Yeah, the other, with this, when we talk about the major litigation, Kyle had put it in, we know the council, county council has it for their attorney. Commissioners have it for their attorney. Kyle wrote it up as 150 per hour for anything that would be extraordinary litigation or major litigation. I talked to the commissioners today about that. I brought up the fact that when we had Junior Stone, the mud yard come through, that actually had to go to the commissioners to get funded. So that's where I asked Kyle, that the commissioners that we go to, he suggested we talk to both. So I talked to the commissioners today, and I believe they're going to talk to the council, but I'm talking to the council too. So we're both talking to the council, I guess, as far as that major funding agreement. I think that we'd have to have a separate line item. We had the auditor there too, so it's figuring out how to get it into our budget, get it as a line item in our budget. So we'll figure that out with him. Like I said, that's another thing I'll talk to Shane about. Kind of touch base with him on how he feels we should approach it.
So has this been presented to Mr. Clipfield?
Yes, and he sent back that he thought it looked good with whatever changes.
Covers all the bases.
Yeah, it was acceptable to him. I just saw Ryan's email. Makes it simple, no frills.
Right. So if we make, I don't know, should we make a recommendation on approval of the county council for funding of the additional money?
Well,
We could do it now.
are we going to have a budget meeting the 26th?
Well, we went over the budget. You don't think it's gonna change a whole lot?
Well, I want you guys, I just tried to hurry up and put this together for you guys. I haven't dove deep into this.
You're talking about the budget.
Yeah, I'll spend like 3 weeks in this, looking at it. What I got you is something to look at.
Okay.
So if you guys wanna do, because before I would turn it in and tell you about it in August. So you guys wanted to be involved, so if we're gonna do that and we're not gonna meet in July, I think we were looking at June 26th. June 26th would follow the council meeting, so that we could come back.
I'd move that we give him permission to do that and inform us about the outcome in August.
Well, but if we've got to meet, we'll have to, if we've got to meet to okay the contract anyway. Because the contract would take effect July 1st.
We're not going to do that now.
Well, what if the council says no?
Well, that's what I'm saying. We do recommend it on the condition of their
We're at
approval.
12,000.
Right, and if it doesn't, then we meet, we'll just have to adjust.
Just put the 12,000 in. Whatever. I don't.
Whatever works. I just thought we were gonna meet the 26th. I thought, well, we could, that'll follow the council meeting, so we would have answers to some of these questions.
I think that would be the best, to have it the 26th.
Yeah.
Because then we have to come back and redo, we were trying to do what we done, and
Right,
that wouldn't look good.
right. That's what I mean. I don't win a nickel and dime in front and then walk in with our budget.
I want to do it through executive council. Everybody doesn't want to meet.
The executive committee.
The executive committee could need to do that.
I could try it. I mean, I could definitely be on the video, but I just can't. There's no way I
can give you the authority to.
I think Brian's asking for some support. I think we ought to give it to him.
I would want you guys to be a part of it.
Well, if you think it's better the way to ask for it, that's fine with me. That way we know we have the money, but if we do it as a whole meeting, we need to make sure we have a quorum that night. If we do executive, if the group here right now says executive session to meet after that meeting, to execute the document.
Executive committee.
Right, executive committee.
I would move that we give the executive committee the authority to meet
Right.
following that and act on our behalf.
So 28th, what is that?
26th.
26th?
It'd be a Monday.
26th is London.
Refresher, who's on the executive committee? I know I am not available.
Okay. So I would be there in Tyson. That's good. President, Vice President.
Frank,
Randy, you're on there.
Randy and Brian Hunt.
Brian Hunt.
And then,
Yeah, one more.
Jim's our advisory.
Yeah, I don't know if I need to be there.
So we would.
Is there a certain percentage of that if there's a decision made?
It has to be unanimous, right? Remember
Well, no, it doesn't have to be unanimous.
Well,
If there's a dissent, they can take it to the entire board.
But it's basically, we're gonna get the money or not, it should pass.
Yeah,
It'll be agreeable.
right, you can do.
But
the
not
majority
no
of that,
required
not
number of
seven,
members
right,
to be
right. Well, you'd have to have a quorum, you know, because you'd have to have a quorum to get the numbers to vote it. So how many people are on it, Ryan? Six?
6 with Jim being advised, well, 7 with the advisory board.
You need 6, so you'd have to have 4, you can do it, you know. If somebody could attend remotely, if they can't do that.
I'm looking at the ocean.
Steve, they got computers at the ocean. Where's your commitment here?
I mean, I could definitely be on one, you know, but I don't know, I can't say for sure right now on Monday. Mondays are pretty.
And executing the document, that should be in a public meeting.
Yeah.
So Frank,
You just
you're
have to take the vote, Tyson, you have to be able to be seen and heard.
3.
I should be there, I would think. But we have to have 4 show up, otherwise. Okay,
It's the 26th.
26. 7 o'clock right here, is it available? Right, yeah, it needs to be a public
Yeah,
spot.
let's check.
It could be a health department again, right?
Shouldn't be.
Well, 7 o'clock, they're usually done by 7 because they start at 5.
I'm thinking you could probably go to 6 if you wanted to, but I'll check.
Okay. First 6 o'clock, guys?
Do you want to confirm with Hunt that you'll be here so that we can make sure we got a quorum, otherwise what's the point?
Yeah.
I'm here. But that may be too late.
Shouldn't.
Would that be too late? We're just following the council meeting.
Well, sometimes they drag on.
I said he didn't want me. I said he didn't want me anyway.
Okay, so we're looking at APC. Do we want to try to make it at 6 o'clock? That make it a little bit easier, rather than 7?
I think we need to keep it at 7, because he won't be able to make it.
Okay, keep it at 7.
Yeah. Let's don't do it before 7.
June 26th.
And then if,
Committee.
all right,
So I got the ring, I'll send out a confirmation.
okay. Okay, next up under kind of old business. Ryan, you, we're at the commissioners meeting, and there's a couple things that were discussed as far as the rezoning issue that we dealt with a while back. Did they finally take action on McCoy's property?
Yes and no. McCoy's got presented to the commissioners today. He kind of lost heart in the project. A lot of bad blood, a little bit defeated. So, you know, he basically kind of gave the, I don't care if it happens or not. He didn't want to, even if they okayed it, he didn't want to go forward. So the commissioners just put forth no action taken on it. So it goes back to our recommendation of basically non-favorable. They had 90 days to take action, and they voted to take no action. We did introduce the comprehensive plan today. We had both Bill Walters and Mike Kleinpeter were there. The commissioners are looking at, they're gonna look at where they can come up with the $5,000 and bring that back to the 520 meeting to go kick off the income survey.
We're just trying to figure out what bucket to take it out.
Yeah. So they got, we had that presentation today, and then again, I talked to them about the.
So the favorable, they just gotta find the right bucket.
Right.
Then you talked about major litigation, which we just kind of talked about,
Right.
trying to get one established within us, within there. All right. Reports. Kyle, anything?
Nothing.
Director? Brian, you got
And
anything?
everything we've been going
We're
through.
going through?
I want to publicly thank Kyle Persinger for staying with us.
Here. Thank you, Kyle. Yes. Hopefully this will be approved as far as we can execute that, and we'll have a new attorney sitting there at the next meeting. Next meeting is, I guess we'll have an executive meeting here, hopefully on the 26th, did we just say? Next regularly scheduled meeting for business is August the 7th. And we got listed here, public. Anybody speak to the public, really no more than 5 minutes for topic of concern, or may or may not be able to act on. Change of voice. So we have no.
Jackie Sheets,
Generally,
Southern Grant County. I just want to have a quick question, Mr. Wright. At our May 1st meeting, I had asked if you could provide information as to who the property owners are and the locations of the proposed solar farms, and you said yes, that you could bring that? Did you bring that?
I apologize, I did not. But I could.
No, Jackie, I answered on it.
No, you didn't.
We don't know
did not
we don't know the exact properties. We just know the general locations.
Okay. Can
That's
you
all we
provide
know
that,
at this
please?
time.
I did.
No,
I
you
gave
did not give me any
So-
information.
It was not, it was the solar companies.
Yeah, you just
Was on the
did, you
list.
gave, who the solar companies were. I'm asking about the property owners and the locations of the proposed solar farms.
And we will get general areas. And
Okay,
that's all we
whatever
know.
you have, I would like to, you said that you could provide that.
I think we can, correct?
Yeah.
Ryan?
That's what I thought I sent last
Right.
time.
No, you just sent who the solar companies were.
The
I'm not
company-
asking about who the solar companies are.
the company's area.
Yeah, you didn't ask, you didn't
Okay.
provide that
I'll get it.
information I asked.
And keep in mind that this is a fluid map or whatever he's gonna provide, because everything's not a done deal yet.
Correct.
So it's just a fluid idea
Yep.
of the locations.
Yes.
And they're northeast, southwest.
All right, thank you, that's all I have.
All right. Any other questions? All right.
I have
Mr.
one.
Kaufman.
On our August meeting, I'd like to add to the agenda a review of the job description for our attorney.
And that should have been emailed out. You want to review what we sent out?
It's here.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got it. I don't want to take the time to go through it right now. I want to come in when we're ready and talk about it. I have just a couple of questions there that, you know, it won't take long, but there may be some discussion as a result. So if we could, I'd like that to be included on a review of the attorney's job description. Next time. Thanks, Dave.
Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn? Make a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Accepted, second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, all.
Wait till you're done. Oh. I was gonna make a motion to wait till you're in the next meeting.
That's good.
That would be classic.
Bring me one next time for spikes. Be better idea. Here's your sit. There may be something. There may be something on the vacation.
That's all.
A lot of things had to be decided. She was on there.